Hi, I'm Stuart. Welcome to my YouTube channel, or welcome back if you watched the previous video. In this video I'm going to talk about my reading week from May 19 to May 25th. I'm going to talk about a couple of books that I completed. I'm going to give my reviews of them. I'm going to talk about a virtual book event I attended. I'm going to list the books that I'm currently reading. I'm going to list some new books I bought, and some a little before this week because I needed to catch up a little bit. And I'm also going to talk about a new hobby that I started. The first book I completed this week is This is Salvaged by Vauhini, Vara. Before I actually give my review of the book, I'm going to give a brief author bio, which I got from the author's website. Her debut novel, The Immortal King Rouge, Norton 2022, was a finalist for the Pulitzer Prize, was shortlisted for the National Book Critics Circle's John Leonard Prize, and the Center for Fiction's First Novel Prize, and won the Colorado Book Award. Publications that named it as a notable book of the year in which it was published include NPR and the New York Times, where Justin Taylor called it a monumental achievement. Vara's story collection, This is Salvaged, Norton 2023, was named by the New Yorker, Publishers Weekly, Fox, the New York Public Library as a notable book of the year in which it was published. It was longlisted for the Story Prize, and in India won the Kalinga Literary Festival Fiction Book Award. Vara was born in Saskatchewan, Canada, as a child of Indian immigrants, grew up there and in Oklahoma and the Seattle suburbs. She lives in Colorado with her husband, writer Andrew Ashtel, and their son. This book is a collection of short stories. The main characters are Indian American women and Indian American girls. The stories touch upon grief, loss of a loved one, friendships between women, relationships between sisters, and other topics. I enjoyed all the short stories. I did find that some of the endings I didn't understand. The stories got stronger too as the book went on. I thought the strongest stories were to the latter part of the book. I recommend this book for anyone who wants to read a collection of short stories about Indian American women and girls, and it talks about the various issues I mentioned. Some of the stories do pack quite a punch. I'm definitely going to look into more books by this author. I rated this book 4 stars. I should mention that this was one of the books that I made it my goal to read for AAPI Heritage Month, which is May in the U.S. I'm not actually doing too good on that goal. I've only completed 2 books, but this is one of them. Now I'm just going to read a short passage from the book. It's actually the first paragraph in the first story of the book. It's kind of hard to read too much because anything is kind of a spoiler. For a month afterward, our whole house smelled foul. There was no telling what kind of food scraps were gathering mold in the kitchen trash, what kind of unflushable sap festered in the toilet bowl. No one had the will to contend with it. One morning, the smell got too disgusting to tolerate. I got in the shower and washed my hair and scrubbed my skin. I put on a t-shirt and cutoffs. I walked out of the house and up the hill, down the path to my best friend's house. I'd barely left home since my brother's funeral. It was a hot, clear summer afternoon. When I knocked, Lydia opened the door within seconds, as if she'd been lying in wait behind it. My brother was dead. We looked at each other. Lydia's eyes went wet with need. She wanted to hug. I could tell. She wanted to grieve together. I could smell it on her, this desperation. She said my name. Swati, she said. The next book I'm going to talk about is The Maid by Nita Prose. I actually got this idea from a video from Nix at Nix Reads. She had read the second novel in this series and she really liked it, and that got me interested, but I figure I should probably start at the first novel, so I got this one from Libby. It took a while to get it from Libby, and then I had to return it partway through because I didn't complete it in time. It took a little while to get it back. So even though it's a little while since it's been published, it's still a quite popular book, at least at Libby at the library I get my books from. I'm first going to read an author bio, which is from the back of the book. Nita Prose is a writer and longtime editor. The Maid, her debut novel, was a #1 New York Times bestseller. a Good Morning America Book Club pick, and an international bestseller. Winner of the Ned Kelly Award for International Crime Fiction, Maid has been published in over 40 countries in more than 35 languages. Prose lives in Toronto, Canada, and the house is moderately clean. She would love to hear from you at nitaprose.com or on Twitter or Instagram at nitaprose. In the afterword of the book, she said that she was 49 when this book got published, which is pretty interesting for your first novel. The main character in this book, the actual Maid, is Molly Gray. She tells the story in the first person. She's a maid in an upscale hotel. Molly is quite intelligent. She has trouble understanding social cues. She has trouble understanding the nuances of language. She's very detail-oriented. She's very good at her job. The rooms, after she cleans them, are spotless. And she, as I said, she's detail-oriented. She remembers in great detail things that occurred in her presence. Some of her coworkers think she's weird. They make fun of her behind her back, sometimes not even so much behind her back. She was raised by her grandmother after her mother left when Molly was very young. Her grandmother raised her to think the best of people, which is good in general, but sometimes it gets Molly in trouble. Pretty early in the book, Molly, while cleaning a room, discovers the dead body of a man. And the book goes from there. The remainder of the book is Molly and other people trying to solve the murder. I found the solution to the mystery very satisfying. It seemed to make sense to me. And I really like Molly as a character, and I like some of the supporting characters. Not all of them are good, but I like some of the supporting characters, the ones who were in Molly's corner. I recommend this book to people who would like a complex mystery with an appealing heroine. I'll definitely be reading the next book in this series. I rated this book 4.25 stars. Next I'm going to read a short passage from the book so you can get an idea of the writing style. I'm well aware that my name is ridiculous. It was not ridiculous before I took this job 4 years ago. I'm a maid at the Regency Grand Hotel, and my name is Molly. Molly Maid, a joke. Before I took the job, Molly was just a name given to me by my estranged mother, who left me so long ago that I have no memory of her. Just a few photos and the stories Gran has told me. Gran said my mother thought Molly was a cute name for a girl, that it conjured apple cheeks and pigtails, neither of which I have as it turns out. I've got simple dark hair that I maintain in a sharp, neat bob. I part my hair in the middle, the exact middle. I comb it flat and straight. I like things simple and neat. Next I'm going to talk about a virtual event I attended this past Tuesday, and the official name is B&N Midday Mystery Virtual Event, Silvia Moreno-Garcia Silver Nitrate, and probably most people know, but the B&N stands for Barnes & Noble. And she was in conversation with another author, Carly Fajardo-Asteen. I'm just kind of going to read the notes that I took after the event to make sure I cover all the things that I noted. The first thing Silvia did was she read an excerpt from the book. Then she said that she's been sick for several months. That has impacted her work. She didn't make clear how she was sick. One inspiration from the book was that her parents worked for a Mexican radio station. Her mother was good at editing film, better than her father, but the men got credit for what Silvia's mother did. At the time, editing was done physically, so you'd have to cut things unlike how we do these videos. Silvia's biggest inspiration was film, as well as books. She writes in a variety of genres. Her advice for aspiring writers was to read a lot, especially when they initially write. Reading is hard to do when a person is a full-time writer. She likes when a person had to search out films. She got tips from a guy who used to hang out at the front desk of the video store she went to. She doesn't watch TV much. She's not on social media much. She's happy about that. And I always find these virtual chats interesting. And she also took questions from the audience. You could submit a question when you bought your ticket. There also was a chat feature, question feature. Should say too that the meeting was, should say too that virtual event was on Zoom, but the people who bought tickets, they weren't shown, and they also had their mics muted. They couldn't actually talk or be seen on this. As part of this virtual event ticket, you get a autographed copy of Silver Nitrate, which is kind of cool. One thing I want to say too, is she mentioned in the chat, which I've noticed too, she does write in a variety of genres, and I more and more see the books she's written, and it's pretty impressive output. Now I just want to list the other books that I've read part of this week. First book was On Writing a Memoir of the Craft by Stephen King. I'm reading that on my Kindle. The second was Divine Rivals by Rebecca Ross. I'm reading that on the Libby app on a new Nook Lenovo tablet that I got. Took a long time for me to get that book, a big waiting list at my library. The final book that I read some of this week was An Encyclopaedia of Fairies by Heather Fawcett. I'm reading this book as part of a buddy read with Nix at Nix Reads, and I thank you, Nix, for inviting me to this buddy read. I'm quite enjoying it. And also this book is the first book I've ever annotated. I felt that it might be helpful for the buddy read, and I found it is helpful because I can, when I have something I think of interest, I can highlight the area I'm talking about, write my comment, and put a little tab on it. I don't have to enter the comment right away when I get it, and then I can later that day or the next day enter the comments I have. So I found that in this case annotating is quite helpful. Not sure how much I'll be doing this in the future, but certainly for buddy reads I will be doing it. Next I want to talk about a few books that I got recently. Not all of them were quite in the last week, some were a little earlier. The first book I want to talk about is Rebel Girl, My Life as a Feminist Punk by Kathleen Hanna. And this is an autographed copy that I got from Barnes & Noble. And I haven't actually, to my knowledge, ever listened to any songs from her most famous band, Bikini Kill. But I'm kind of a sucker for musician memoirs. And I happened to see this while I was scrolling around Barnes & Noble website. And the fact that it's autographed is another real pull for me. It's like kind of catnip to a cat. So I think I will listen to some of their songs before I read this book because it'll give it more context. But I am looking forward to reading this book. The next book that I got, and it was a Kindle book, is Rouge by Mona Awad. I've yet to read her most famous book, Bunny. I do have a Nook copy of it, but I bought this book too. Sometimes it's not unusual for me to buy a second book or more from an author if I haven't read the first. There is a risk there, but it usually works out for me. The third book I bought is Gorgeous Gruesome Faces by Linda Cheng. This is also a Kindle book. This book is a horror novel, I believe, set in the K-pop industry. I can't really remember why I initially saw this book. I was probably just scrolling around, but that kind of premise is one I like. The next book I got, which is a Nook book, was You Like It Darker, Stories by Stephen King. This was a book I pre-ordered a little while back, and I got it on Nook. I am revisiting Stephen King. I read Stephen King a lot in my youth, but not very much in recent years. Got the idea to do this on a recent video by Jack at spreadbookjoy. She talked about the Stephen King books she had read and what she thinks of them. And that got me interested again. And at the same time as I pre-ordered the short story collection, I also bought the On Writing a Memoir of the Craft, which I talked about previously as one of the books I'm currently reading. This short story collection does have some stories that weren't previously released, but I don't necessarily believe that it's many, if any, new stories. The final book that I got this week is a book that I bought on Libby this past Friday. It's A House with Good Bones by T. Kingfisher. This was a book that I decided to borrow after watching a couple of videos by Pat at Book Chat with Pat. She is doing the Horror Mayhem Readathon, and this book was suggested to her as a kind of good entry point for horror. And I had heard about T. Kingfisher before and had some interest, but it's really Pat talking about it that got me decided to finally borrow a book. And one factor in that was she said it's a novella, so that's kind of a good thing for me because I shouldn't be borrowing too many books right now with all the books I have already. But the fact that this is a novella makes it kind of an easy decision. Another recent thing I did related to reading was I subscribed to DC Universe Infinite. This is an online site from DC Comics that they offer you the ability to read various comics in their app or on your laptop. I've had a periods of time in my past where I read a lot of comics. I come and go with it, but I do still read occasional graphic novels. But I had an interest in looking more in depth and reading actual comics upon their release or close to their release. The subscription I bought was an Ultra subscription. And with that subscription, you can read some comics fairly soon after their official release, and that was appealing to me. The comic I read this week from that site was Batman Dark Age #2. This series is a reimagining of Batman's origin story. They still have the part where his parents were killed when he was young by robbers. What I like that they've done in the series so far is that Batman was sent to Vietnam, and as part of that he was selected as a member of a commando unit. What I like about that is like the lessons he learned as part of the commando unit explain to me in a good way some of his abilities that he shows as Batman. Next I want to talk about a recent hobby I started. In recent months I had noticed sponsored posts on Instagram and Facebook of a company called the Woobles, and eventually I started following their Instagram page, and after seeing their videos and their posts I bought a few kits from them. What the Woobles are is they're crochet kits that you put together cute plushies. They have detailed videos, so it's a good thing if someone has no experience, and I didn't have any experience. Just wanted to show the first couple that I completed. The first one here is, this is like Felix the Fox. I actually completed Felix previous to this week, but the second one I completed was Jojo the Bunny, and I did complete Jojo recently. This is Cottontail, and I just wanted to show too what I'm working on currently. This is like they come in these envelopes. There's everything you need to do it, and this is like just the one I'm working now. The one in the envelope is called Kiki the Chick. That's what I'm working on now. I get a great deal of satisfaction upon completion of these. It's because I've created something. I also play video games. I put together Legos, and I get satisfaction out of those when I succeed at a video game, or get a new level or something like that, or put together a Lego. But this is kind of more the fact that I'm actually creating something. I think it's kind of akin to if I was doing paintings, or if I was, say, taking a pottery class and creating a vase or something like that. But I'm quite enjoying this, and I plan to keep doing them, at least for a while. I'd be interested to know how your reading week went. If you like to let me know, please comment maybe what books you're reading this week, maybe a book you really liked, maybe one you didn't. If you enjoy this video, please give it a like, please subscribe. Please hit the bell to get notified when I upload future videos. Hope you have a wonderful day.